Hey guys, I know I pointed this out on the macro trend, but today I was watching Crypto Kirby's video, and I gotta say before I say anything else, he's a great analyst. If you've never listened to him or subscribed to him, you should, because I think the guy really knows his stuff. He's actually the trader that made me stop being so much of a moon boy and actually look at the market for what it is. And I guess, consider playing the market short as well as long rather than only looking to buy and hold Bitcoin. But I do think that he might be playing it wrong right now. I know he's speculating short, and he absolutely could be right. I am currently in a long, and it's already in profits. I've locked in over half my position. I'm letting the rest ride. I'll go into detail on that in a zoomed up time frame soon here. But I just want to do a refresher of what I went over in my last video, um, because his video today reminded me of it, and I just think it's important to go into again as a bit of a refresher to keep it on your radar. What he was doing is he had two indicators he was following today. I'm not going to pretend to understand them because I've never used them before. I don't even remember what he called them. But the one thing I want to get into is that he was doing exactly what I was doing in my last video with my two indicators, and that was matching up touch points on the price chart with the candles as well as on your indicators. So he used two different indicators. I'm going to use these two indicators again just to go over it quickly. And he was leaning to the bearish side, and which is fair because we are facing this macro resistance, but I don't necessarily think it's going to hold as resistance. And his indicators that were a bit bearish, I want to go into my indicators and why I think the trend is actually bullish rather than bearish like what he's predicting. And again, I'm just going to do this quick review. Is on our price action. We have our touch point here, we have our touch point here, and we have our touch point here, and then we have our break. And then on my indicator here, we have the touch point, which matches up perfectly. We have our touch point, matches up perfectly. We have our touch point, matches up, and then we have our break. So you can see how that played out with the RSI matching up with the price action and having our breakout of both trends, both in the candle and the RSI. And then over here we had a very similar situation. We had our touch point, touch point, touch point, touch point, and then touch point and touch point, followed by our breakout, which we currently have. And not only are we breaking above this resistance, but you can see that we're consolidating above it, treating it as a support flip, and we're actually curling to the upside, as well as our price doing the same thing. Even though this week has 4 days left, this candle is already engulfing the red candle previous to it, and that does not have to close that way. We absolutely could just dump, retesting this purple line or even further, but for now this is how I'm looking at it and this is how I'm playing it. And I'm just going to show you my second indicator now, so we can see that we have our first indicator lining up perfectly. Now I want to get into my momentum indicator, and I'm sorry, I know I pointed this out, but I think it's important. So now I'll get into what I think about this indicator. Is we have this bullish pivot point on this momentum indicator, which would be around this. Here, I'll actually switch up the colors here just to make it easier. So we have this area here, we have these bullish pivot points, and then we have our sideways action along with our sideways action, but we have this momentum indicator flip into green and above this red line, which is bullish with sideways action. Next, in our current trend, we have our bullish pivot point, followed by our flip to green above our red line, consolidating with sideways action. So you guys can see what happened last time here. From this, we got about 150% pump. I'm not saying that has to happen again, but it's a possibility. So I mean, we might start to see a bit of an actual bull market coming into play here. Obviously, it's early to say, but I just wanted to point this out. Again, really respect Crypto Kirby, but right now I think he might be looking at it a little wrong. And again, totally makes sense. We're flirting at resistance, but the fact that we're not dumping and we're starting to show bullish signs, I mean, generally, the more times that you test a resistance, the weaker it gets. And right now, we're just tapping away at it. We're not getting rejected super hard, so I'm not sure it's going to happen. Obviously, it could. If it turns around here, my profits are, I'm just going to lock in more profits on my current long position, so I don't care. I can't lose on this trade. Um, Keep in mind this, here, let me just move this a little bit. Notice we got this steep dump on this momentum indicator, followed by a bullish pivot point right above this green box here. Just to kind of show something similar that happened yesterday where I took a position is right here. Here it was. This is kind of where I started playing along yesterday. For one, I thought we might have this potential falling wedge form. So you guys know that that's generally a bullish pattern once you break to the upside. But the fact that we had this dump here, and I call it a dump loosely, this is a 15-minute chart, but you get what I mean. It's just a bit of a down move. But look at this momentum indicator. Again, we had our bullish pivot point, quick dump below that line down to the green box, and then a bit of a rally. And basically, I just want to point out that we're doing the same thing sort of on the 15-minute chart here as we are on the weekly that I just pointed out. We have our dump, we have our pivot point, we get back up to resistance, we flirt just below it, we get up, we get a bit of a support flip. And here, that's kind of what I'm looking for. We have our bullish pivot point, we have our jump back up, and let's just ignore this purple line right now, and let's just consider this white line. So we have the same thing happening. We have our support flip, and we're going into this resistance and just kind of consolidating below it. So I'm thinking that if we do break above it, being this is such a large pattern, it could absolutely just rip through once we get our break above, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we just break above and consolidate along here before jumping up, just like what our 15-minute chart looks like right here. Of course, none of this has to happen, and of course, none of this is financial advice. These are only my own opinions and how I'm looking at the market. These are two very different time frames, and I'm just looking at a little bit of a similarity. That's just one minor bullish point is making that comparison. I want to go into this position a little further. I did point out this red trend line here. If I go to the 4-hour, and I actually noticed that Four Flies pointed it out too. I've been pointing out this line for a while already, but you can see that we did break this red trend line today. However, you can see how I could think that this would be resistance. So after I entered my position, I did lock in some of my profits just below that red line here at this green line. However, we ended up getting this little bit of a support flip when we got above it, and as well, I have a couple lines. These lines were theoretical, but I had two of them matching up here, and we got a green candle close as well. It was well, it wasn't quite engulfing, I guess, but it was a solid green candle right at two intersecting support lines that I was watching, so I added back into my position. And then I was looking at this purple trend line as a possible rejection point. So I locked in some more profits there, half my position, and I'm letting the other half ride for now. I will close it if we dump below this green line because I'm looking at that as being our uptrend support currently. That purple line, if I zoom out to the 4-hour, I've been pointing this out for, it seems like a long time now. I think it was the start of June. I think right here is where I pointed it out. So the 2nd of June, that's over a month ago. And I did say that I was expecting a bit of a dump if we dumped below this purple line, but after we did and we didn't actually dump and we started testing it as resistance and not getting sent down into the abyss, I was looking at it as more of a fake out, and I'm still willing to consider that. Of course, I'm willing to consider all options, but currently looking at this trend as possibly quite bullish. Even What might be more bullish is if, now that we closed above this red line, if we got a bit of a retest down before we make a bigger move up. But for now, we're going to have to see how that plays out. So you guys can kind of see the few things that I'm looking at. Right now, like I said, I'm in a position, I locked in half my profits, I guess. I'm letting the rest ride because this is the first time I've seen any sort of consolidation back above my purple trend line. We had a couple fake outs when we got back above it. Like here we kind of wicked above it, here we got above it temporarily, here we wicked above it. But now is the only time we're actually kind of consolidating above it. If we drop this line, I'm hoping this green line will support us, but if not, we might be going back down to test this red line here. So we'll have to see how that goes also. As for right now, that's kind of the things I'm looking at and the few things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Here, yeah, I don't know, I guess if we drop this green line, I'm just going to have to look for another entry point, but I am leaning more bullish than bearish right now, so I'm going to keep looking for bullish snipes. What I would really like to see right now is a bit more consolidation into some sort of a bull flag, kind of like so. If we could coil up a little further but stay above this purple line, test this yellow line a little more, and really, especially if we could, you know, I like my intersecting lines, so there, if we get my purple trend, my purple range meeting up with this potential green support line, I think that could be an excellent blast off point. And if we get some sort of a green candle close right there and it looks like it's really being respected, I might actually add into my position again. I would be able to keep my stop loss at a profit because I'm in such a juicy profit already. So I'm really not too worried if I do decide to add into my position, but we're going to have to see how that goes in the next few hours, couple days, that sort of stuff. But yeah, basically just wanted to point out a couple things to you guys quick, show you what I'm looking at in the market. Yeah, with that, I'll hopefully be back on this weekend to make a video. We'll have to see what the price action does and if it's worth making a video. But yeah, those are just some things I'm looking at and how I'm playing the market currently. Hopefully you guys get a little bit of helpful insight there. Again, none of this is financial advice. Do your own research. But yeah, if you could leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you're thinking, how you're looking at the markets, that sort of thing. That would just be great. Subscribe if you haven't. That would also really help the channel. And with that, I'm out. Peace. Stay safe.